Hey there, math people, how's it going? This is going to be a video about division. So I'm going to go down here and we're going to do whole number division. And what that means is that the answers are going to come out as whole numbers. So you don't need to worry about remainders or fractions or decimals or anything like that. We're just going to have answers that work out to be whole numbers. Now, the best way to be really good at these is to practice your multiplication so well that you just know it literally backwards, because division is backwards multiplication. That's exactly what it is. And so if I know, for instance, that 7 times 8 equals 56, then I know that 56 divided by 7 is 8. And as a bonus, I know that 56 divided by 8 is 7. So you can think of these as being number families or groups or related, you know, um, packages of numbers. The 7, the 8, the 56. You can think of them as a unit, and they go together, right? 7 times 8 is 56. 56 divided by 7 is 8. 56 divided by 8 is 7. Now, when I say that division is backwards multiplication, that's what I mean. Is that I've got this situation here. Let me get the pen working. I've got to type or push that thing right there and see what comes up. There we go. So I've got this situation like this. I've got 7 times 8 equals 56. What that means, let me write down a little bit lower than that. I didn't write that very well, and it's blocked by my face. 7 times 8 equals 56. That means that 56 divided by 8 equals 7, and 56 divided by 7 equals 8. Okay, so these relationships would work for every single one of these. Now, in another video about multiplication, I've mentioned that what multiplication is it's repeated addition. So if I'm looking at this idea that 7 times 8 equals 56, what that means is that 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7. How many did I do there? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 7. Plus 7. If I add all those 7s together, I will get 56. That's what repeated addition means, and that's what multiplication is. That's what 7 times 8 is. It means 7 added to itself 8 times. Now, if I've got this, you can see that what division must be is I start at 56 and I subtract 7. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to think, okay, well, what if I've got 56 minus 7? Well, that'll equal 49. Then I'll do 49 minus 7. That'll equal 42. Then I'll do 42 minus 7. That will equal 35. Then I'll do 35 minus 7, and that will equal 28. Now, if I subtract 7 again from 28, let's see if I've got room over here. Maybe I can do it. 28 minus 7 equals 21. 21 minus 7 equals 14. 14 minus 7 equals 7. And 7 minus 7 equals 0. So what you can see here is that I've started at 56. I've subtracted 7. 8 times, right? So 56 divided by 7 is 8, because 8 is the number of times I can subtract 7 from 56. Okay? Now, very often the way that we think about this is, I think, how many 7s can I add up and stay under 56? It's the same thing, right? However many 7s I can subtract without getting less than 0 is the same as how many 7s I can add without going over the number, right? This is just like if I'm thinking of, 10 minus 3. I'm thinking, what do I need to add to 3 to get to 10, right? So a lot of times, instead of doing subtraction, what I'll do is adding. And that's what I'm doing when I'm thinking, how many 7s can I add up and stay under 56? Because remember, multiplication is repeatedly adding. So you're thinking, what can I multiply times 7 and stay under 56? What you're doing is saying, how many 7s can I add up and stay under 56? So that's an explanation for what division is. But in practical terms, kind of the way to do it is to just think, oh, what times 7 will equal 56? What is the number that I multiply times 7 to get to 56? And I really think that the best way of going about that is very often just practicing your multiplication so well so that you can know it. But let's try a few more of these and see how they go. Here I've got 108 divided by 9. You might think, oh man, Joe, that's crazy. I have never memorized anything that high before. Well, here's the way you think about it. You think, oh, well, I need to get my pen. I think, well, I know that 9 times 10 equals 90. And so then I think, well, I need something that I multiply times 9. Yeah, that's 10 nines right there to get 90. I need, how much more is 108 than 90? Well, it's 18 more, right? Because that's what equals 108. So when I've got a bigger number like this, I just think, well, I know that this is more than 10 nines. I know 108 is more than 10 nines because I know right away that 10 nines is 90. So then I just think, well, how much more is 108 than 90? It's 18. That means 2 nines. And that means that 9 times 12 is 108. And so that means that 108 divided by 9 equals 12. And so that's the way I think about that. There we go. 108 divided by 9 equals 12. Let's try another. 13 divided by 1. Boy, the random number generator is really serving me right today because it's showing us good example problems to figure out all the stuff that we need to figure out here. 13 divided by 1. That means how many 1s will fit into 13. Of course, 13 of them will. Or it means what times 1 will equal 13. And again, of course, it's 13, right? You can think of it, how many times would you add 1 to itself and get up to 13? That would be 13. Or how many times can you subtract 1 from 13 before you get to 0? Also 13. The takeaway from this is that any number divided by 13 equals that number, right? So this is a related kind of rule. When you learn to multiply, you find out that any number times 1 equals that number. Now with division, in a very interesting sort of way, any number divided by 1 is also that number. Okay, so that's a pretty good thing to be aware of. 12 divided by 2. Dividing a number by 2 is just the same as cutting it in half. So dividing by 2 means that you're cutting in half. Just like multiplying by 2 means that you're doubling. Dividing by 2 means you're cutting in half. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. And of course that makes sense because 6 times 2 equals 12, right? So there's our answer. 90 divided by 9. 90 divided by 9, that means how many 9s fit into 90, and of course it's 10. When you divide a number that ends in a 0 by 10, you get that number without the 0. When you divide a number that ends in a 0 by that 10's digit number, then you'll get 10. One thing to be aware of, I guess. I think it's fairly simple, though, and I think that probably the most straightforward way to think about this is what times 9 equals 90, and of course the answer is 10. 27 divided by 3. Now, this one, it's kind of like when we had that 108 divided by 9 thing, and we thought, well, we know that 10 nines is 90. How much more is this? And you worked it out that way. When I think about a problem like this, first, I really encourage you to practice your multiplication so well that you just know this right away. But I'm willing to believe that you might not always know all of these. And so I want to show you some methods that you can use for even bigger numbers that I wouldn't ever expect you to memorize. But I do kind of think it's a good idea to memorize at least up to, the 12s, But here, 27 divided by 3. I know that 30 divided by 3 equals 10, right? So I can think, well, 30 is 3 more than 27. So 27 divided by 3 must be 1 3 less. That's one way to think about it, because 30 is 1 3 less, or 27 is 1 3 less than 30. Now, another way to look at this, and it might make a little bit more intuitive sense, especially if you're more comfortable with multiplication, is 3 times 10 equals 30, right? And what that means is that since 30 minus 3 equals 27, and 3 times 1 equals 3, then that means I need to subtract my 3 times 1, right? So 3 times 10 minus 3 times 1 means 3 times 9. And if 3 times 9 is 27, then 27 divided by 3 must be 9. That's the way to think about that. Now, I don't think you necessarily need to go through all that trouble. And I would like you to think about things that you know about multiplying times 9. I would like you to remember that multiplying 7 times 9 is like multiplying it times 10, taking away that number. Think about that. I want you to remember little hints that like the fact that the digits 2 and 7 add up to 9. And so you know that those are going to be, it's some multiple of 9, right? So become familiar with the numbers, I guess is what I'm saying. Develop a relationship, learn a little bit about them. I'm going to do one more. I'm looking down at the clock, and it looks like we're already almost at 14 minutes. So I want to keep these under 15 anyway. Let's do one more here if I can find my clicker. 56 divided by 8. We start off there. We thought 56 divided by 7 is 8. That means that 56 divided by 8 is 7, right? And I tell you, the best way to do most of these is just to know your multiplication so well that you can do it backwards. Let's do another one before we go. 60 divided by 10, right? It's going to be 6, because 6 times 10 is 60. So think about these families. Think about these number families where the two factors and the product, the two things you multiply together, and then the thing that you get when you multiply them together, still are the same groupings that you'll use in this kind of division. So 25 divided by 5 is 5, because 5 times 5 is 25. One more, one last one. 65 divided by 13. Now, I'm glad we've got this here, because there is one more little method that I'm going to point out to you really quickly. when I do this, and the numbers are suddenly things I don't recognize at all, I'll always go back to the same idea. I'll think, well, I know that 13 times 10 equals 130. And then, well, that's way too much. 130 is way too much in 65. So then the next step is to think, oh, well, what's 13 times 5? And the reason I jump from 10 down to 5 is I can just cut this in half. Half of 130, it turns out, is exactly 65, and in this case, it gives me the answer. If it doesn't give me the answer, at least it gives me a starting point. You know, like say I was trying to figure out what, 78 times, or 78 divided by 13 was. Then I would think, oh, I need, 13 more. That's 13 times 1. And then, I would just think, oh, so that's going to be 6 because I need to add one more 13. So you can use that as a guidepost. Now, in this case, we got kind of lucky because turns out that our answer actually was 5. But my point is, go up to 10s right away because you just stick a 0 on the number. And then cut it in half. Now, to cut 130 in half, by the way, if you don't know this, you can cut 120 in half. And then cut 10 in half. And you add those together, you get 65. So to cut 130 in half, if you don't know that, go down to the next group of 10s, cut that in half. It'll be easy because it's even. And then cut the 10 in half that you took away. So there's my last pointer. We went over, but I think it was worth it. I'm glad that we got that last one there at the end. And have fun with these. See how it goes. I'll catch you next time.